The nature of this world is people get and forget. In due course of time, they tend to regret.
Why did I do that?
Itna kyun kar diya?
And he is not recognizing it also.
Not even recognizing it. The nature of most people in this world is you do them 100 good things and you do one bad thing at the end of it. They'll remember the bad thing and forget the 100 good things.
Yes, of course.
God gives and forgives. Normal human beings of this world get and forget. When you're not just doing mere philanthropy, when you're putting God in the center of your life, even when you're serving, what is your consciousness? Your consciousness is, I'm doing this service as an instrument in the hands of God. But if you're a true karma yogi, you will have this nirmama attitude. I am being an instrument. God is the doer. So you have to dovetail your rajoguna and karma yoga principles. You're still bound by the rules and regulations of the scriptures. The senses have to be regulated. So what is that pushes people towards wrong activities even though they know
Oh, that's very interesting.
that something is wrong?
Pranam Prabhuji.
Pranam.
So we continue with our chapter 3 really, where Krishna is explaining the various aspects of karma yoga to our friend really. You mentioned that last time we forgot to actually define what karma yoga is, which Krishna does. So if you can probably start with that.
Yes. So there's one particular verse in the 3rd chapter which kind of gives a very comprehensive definition of karma yoga. Concise, comprehensive. So Krishna says, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvara. Mai sarvani karmani. Do all activities for my sake.
My meaning Krishna's
Krishna's
sake. Oh, okay.
Take yourself out of the center and put God in the center. So when you put God in the center, automatically the entire universe, you're putting the entire universe in the center of your life rather than putting yourself in the center of your life. Because God comes with His universe. You can't serve God without serving His parts and parcels. If you truly want to serve God, included within it is service to other living entities also. So Krishna is telling, do all your services for my sake. Mai sarvani karmani sannyasya-dhyatma chetasa. With the consciousness of a sannyasi.
I see.
You don't have to be a sannyasi externally.
But it is consciousness of a sannyasi.
Consciousness of a sannyasi. And what is the consciousness of a sannyasi? Nirashir. First element here is without any asha, without any selfishness. Nirashi. The same thing that we have been discussing.
Nishkam we discussed last time.
Nishkam.
Correct.
So Nishkam, Nirashir points to the same thing. Nirashir. But the second thing is very crucial here. Nirashir, nirmamo. Without a sense of egoism.
I see.
See, the question might arise in our mind that if the purpose of yajna is to become other-centric, to take away the focus from ourselves and focus on others, if that is the purpose of yajnas, I can just follow any charitable philanthropic activities. Why should I rely on yajnas? Why should I turn to spirituality per se? Religion.
Any other form of giving is good enough, really.
Any other form of giving is good enough. So, the differentiating factor here is this word nirmama here. Nirmama is that sense of egoism. As I said, when you perform yajna ceremonies, the implicit understanding is the results are not coming just by your effort. It is dependent upon higher powers for your results.
Correct.
So that attitude that I am the doer goes down when you perform yajna. Because you acknowledge that I am not the sole go-getter. Without this nirmama attitude, even if you perform selfless activities, what will happen is still you will have a sense of I am doing it.
I think that is probably the subtlety. Even if you are doing the yajna for, let's say, sacrifice to others, if you have an attitude of egoism, or I have done this yoga, I have served other people, probably that is what he is alluding to.
Yes, you're not completely selfless here.
You're not selfless then.
Not completely selfless.
If the ego comes in place, then also it's a problem.
It's a problem. It will hinder in your inner satisfaction. See, the goal is inner satisfaction. And that inner satisfaction won't come unless you're completely selfless and you're free from egoism also.
I agree.
So, nirmama is a very key element here. So, that is why it's recommended that when you perform a yajna, you acknowledge. See, performance of yajna accomplishes two purposes here. First of all, it helps you start experiencing the joy of giving. Secondly, it frees you from egoism because you start acknowledging the daiva aspect.
It is not me who is doing it.
Yes.
It is someone else who is probably responsible for it.
Apart from me, there are higher powers responsible for the results. So this is one thing. See, another thing is, suppose you are helping society in an extensive way. And the nature of this world is people get and forget. And oftentimes, people who want to cultivate this selfless attitude also, who want to develop this purpose-driven attitude also, in due course of time, they tend to regret.
Why did I do that?
Itna kyun kar diya?
And he is not recognizing it also.
Not even recognizing it. Isn't it?
Yeah.
See, the nature of this world, the nature of most people in this world is, you do them 100 good things and you do one bad thing at the end of it. They'll remember the bad thing and forget the 100 good things.
Yes, of course.
But when it comes to really saintly people, this is the test of saintliness. Because this is a characteristic of God also. God gives and forgives. Normal human beings of this world get and forget. So even a saintly person, you harm the saintly person in 100 ways, but you do one good act, that person will remember that one good thing and forget all the
not so good
things that you have done for him. So this is, but you can't expect the people whom you are serving to be saintly.
Correct.
So the chances are good that they are going to forget. And when they forget, where is satisfaction? Where is inner joy? Even though you have served so much. And this happens all the time.
Yeah.
So when you actually have this spiritual consciousness, when you're not just doing mere philanthropy, when you're putting God in the center of your life, even when you're serving, what is your consciousness? Your consciousness is, I'm doing this service as an instrument in the hands of God. If it were not for God, I couldn't have rendered this service.
Correct.
So rather than expecting the receiver to be grateful, we are grateful for the opportunity to serve
him. Yeah.
We are grateful that God made me an instrument.
God gave me an opportunity to serve someone.
To serve somebody.
Yeah.
So unless you have this nirmama attitude, that actually, this nirmama means, mama means I am the doer. If it were not for me, these people would have died hungry.
I was responsible.
I was responsible to benefit them, to help them.
I am the God for them.
Yeah. They might be benefited, but it is a toxin for you. It's a toxin for the heart.
Correct.
To think like that. But if you are a true karma yogi, you will have this nirmama attitude.
Yeah.
Nirmama attitude is, I am being an instrument. God is the doer. I am not the doer.
I am only the facilitator.
I am the facilitator. Yeah. And I am grateful to be the facilitator.
Yeah.
I'm
very difficult to be in that position.
Yeah. See, that is why integral to karma yoga is regular practice of sadhana. Sadhana purifies the heart. Sadhana purifies the heart of the tendency of asha, selfishness, and mama, egoism. And when we are purified of it, to the extent we are purified of it, to that extent we are actually able to render service in the consciousness of a Nishkama Karma Yogi, and that gives us inner satisfaction, inner happiness.
Very true. Very true. Very interesting. Very interesting.
See, there's a very interesting story in the Srimad Bhagavatam
Mm-hmm.
of Maharaj Bharat.
Mm-hmm.
So Bharat, King Bharat, he was a king. And then when the right time came, he renounced everything and went to the forest for higher spiritual realization, like we were talking about earlier. He was on a very high spiritual platform. But then what happened was, his hermitage was on the bank of the Gandaki river,
Mm-hmm.
Nepal. So one day, when he was busy with his spiritual activities in his hermitage, he hears the roaring of a lion on the banks of there was the forest nearby. So he goes and checks, and he finds that this lion was chasing a deer.
Mm.
And out of fear of the lion, the deer was trying to cross the Gandaki river in a hurry.
Mm.
It was traumatized because of the roar, and because of that, the deer had a miscarriage. It gave, not a miscarriage exactly, it delivered.
Mm.
It's called a doe,
Yeah.
the little one
Doe,
of a
doe.
deer,
Yeah.
the doe.
Doe deer. Yeah.
So doe was lying in the river, and the deer came to this bank and it died instantly because of the trauma. The doe was going to be swept away by the water and it was about to die. So what Bharat did, he went and fetched that doe, took care of it, nourished it, and in due course of time it grew to become a beautiful deer.
Mm.
And he became attached to the deer. He became attached to the deer. See, again he made the same mistake. The mama, the consciousness where he slipped was, I am taking care of the deer. Now to neglect the deer was wrong. It was his duty to show compassion for the deer.
Correct.
It was his duty to take care of the deer. But it was also his duty to not deviate from his sadhana. The problem was he deviated from his sadhana, so the mamatva attitude took root in his heart, and because of that he became attached to the deer. And then as the story goes, when he's about to die, he remembers the deer and he becomes the deer in the next life. So this is one of the principles that Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. What determines our next life? Krishna will explain this in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita when we reach there.
Mm.
So because he was attached to the deer, Maharaj Bharat became a deer. And then being a deer, he was conscious of his previous life. So he was careful to go near the hermitages of the sages, and he was careful to take part in spiritual activities. So again he was blessed with a human form of life. And when he was blessed with a human form of life, again he got the name Bharat. His parents gave him the name Bharat. And his name was, people started calling him Jad Bharat.
Mm.
Because he remembered his previous lives also, and now he was very careful not to fall into the trap of Maya.
Mm.
So he was always conscious and cautious, and he acted as if he is Jad, dull and dumb.
I see.
So that people won't disturb him with materialistic activities.
I see.
Something very interesting happens. There's a long story about Jad Bharat in the Bhagavatam, but then at one point of time, he is at a road. And along that road, there was a palanquin that was passing, carried by 4 people, and they were carrying the king of that area. His name was Maharaj Rahuguna.
Mm-hmm.
And it so happened that they were looking, one of the palanquin carriers, he had some trouble, and they were looking for an alternative. And they found this guy. He was
Well built.
Yeah. And he looked dull also. So they commanded him, come, lift the palanquin with us. So Jad Bharat, he became the 4th carrier of the palanquin. And then onwards, when the palanquin went forward, Rahuguna, who was sitting in the palanquin, he was experiencing jerks every now and then. So he said, why are you not carrying properly? So the other 3 people pointed out that this Jad Bharat, the 4th guy who has joined us, every now and then he takes a jump. He's not walking steadily. So because of him, you're not able to carry your palanquin properly. So Raghugun, he speaks very sarcastically to Jad Bharat. Oh, you are so lean, you are so thin. And this palanquin is so big, how can you carry it? Obviously you have difficulties. So he was actually well built. So he is taunting him. But amazingly, when Raghugun actually taunts Jad Bharat, in response Jad Bharat, he starts telling, "O king, what you are speaking is a fact. Because the soul is neither fat nor thin." So when Raghugun hears it, he understands that this person is a selfless person. And he was a pious king. He immediately got down and he offers his pranams to Jad Bharat. And there is a section in the Bhagavatam where Jad Bharat gives transcendental instructions to King Raghugun. The point I am trying to make here is, why was Jad Bharat jumping every now and then? Because when he was walking with the palanquin, he was finding
small
ants
I
on
see.
the ground.
He didn't want to hurt them.
He didn't want to hurt them. So the principle here is, see, it was compassion that brought him down. Apparently speaking.
Compassion and attachment. Yeah.
Compassion for the deer brought him down. And if he had gone by the externals, Jad Bharat would have ceased to be compassionate to the ants now. But he understood that being compassionate is not wrong. To develop that attitude that I am the doer, that is the problem. So, nirmama attitude is important. And he cultivated it and then he attained perfection. But so this is the complete. See, nowadays in today's world, people have weird understandings of karma yoga. But this is like a thorough, and then it doesn't end there, by the way. Nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyatsva vigatajvara. Without lethargy, you should fight.
I see.
So, see, so many elements here. First of all, do everything as a service to God.
Correct.
And in the consciousness of a sannyasi. And within the consciousness of a sannyasi are attitude of nirashir, selflessness, nirmama.
Without your ego.
Without ego. And
without lethargy.
Without lethargy. So this is a comprehensive definition of karma yoga.
Presi.
So this is text number 30 of the third chapter.
Okay.
For future reference. So, Krishna, he says, he pushes Arjuna to perform his duty here. So, and he's telling this point here, this text number 33. Even a person of knowledge acts according to his or her own nature. For everyone follows a nature he or she have acquired from the three modes, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. What can repression accomplish? So, basically, we will be discussing the concept of the three gunas later on. But as per his guna, Arjuna was Rajoguni, Kshatriya. So, Krishna is telling you can't artificially repress your Rajoguna.
Basic. Yeah.
So, you have to dovetail your Rajoguna and Karma Yoga principles. While at the same time, in the next verse he says, there are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. See, this is very important to understand, this delicate balance here. See, on the one hand, Karma Yoga allows activities and it allows fulfillment of material desires also. So, Kama Karma Yoga. But at the same time, it is not that, it's just, you can do whatever you want. You are still bound by the rules and regulations of the scriptures. The senses have to be regulated. Now, Arjuna raises the question now, next, that, alright, Karma Yoga is about performing yajna and fulfilling our desires. But when it comes to following the rules and regulations of the scriptures to keep our senses under check, that is a problem. And he raises this question that Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha anichannapi varshneya baladeva niyojita. Very important question. He says, for descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So we know something is wrong. We are acting sinfully. For example, a thief knows that stealing is wrong, but still, it looks like some force is pushing the thief to steal nonetheless.
Yeah.
So what is that? That pushes people towards wrong activities, even though they know
Oh, that's very interesting.
that something is wrong. And Krishna answers that question here. Kamesha krodesha rajo guna samudbhava māshano mahapapma vidyenam iha vairinam. It's again kama, desires. Desires push you. And those desires in due course of time lead to krodha, when unfulfilled. Anger.
Wrath.
Kamesha krodesha, and they arise from rajogun, from the mode of passion. Mahashano mahapapma vidyenam iha vairinam. They are, it's mahashano. It's like a blazing fire. This kama is like a blazing fire. So when it comes to a blazing fire, can you extinguish a blazing fire by feeding fuel into it?
It'll ignite more.
Yeah. So similarly, just by fulfilling our desires doesn't mean the desires will subside.
Correct.
It is only going to burn
Intensify.
a blaze.
Yeah.
See, this is beauty. See, on the one hand, Krishna is telling how karma cannot be fulfilled. You have to be wary of karma in these verses. At the same time, there is a program that is given to channelize karma so that in due course of time you graduate from karma yoga to jnana yoga. See, karma is acknowledged as you can't wish it away. You can't wish it away. At the same time, you should understand that it's an enemy. So karma is an enemy whom you know is an enemy, and at the same time you know that you can't wish it away. We all have people like that in our life, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
We have some people in our life whom we know they're not our well-wishers, and they are maybe meaning harm to us also. But at the same time, you can't wish them away. Karma is like that. So you have to adjust karma. You have to adjust it. See, in the modern day world, the problem here is karma is seen as a friend. And then you give full freedom to karma in your life. And that's very counterproductive.
You fuel it more.
You feel it more and more and more. And it's unlimited. It leads to krodha. Krodha is internal satisfaction and the internal frustration. And the internal frustration takes the form of stress, anxiety, all these things. Depression. What is depression? Depression is krodha directed internally.
Correct.
You blame yourself. You feel that you are good for nothing. Ultimately, it is because of karma that leads to all these things.
Yeah.
So, the Vedas help, the Gita helps us channelize karma in the proper way. When we channelize karma according to the Vedic injunctions, we'll be able to satisfy our desires at the same time not get entangled.
Yeah.
When you give full freedom to enemy, you'll become entangled also otherwise.
Correct.
So Krishna is telling here, Kamesha krodesha rajoguna samudbhava mahashano mahapapma vidyehenamya verinam. This is the greatest enemy, he says. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. See, this karma, it clouds our intelligence, our consciousness. As I say, our consciousness, our soul is hankering for the joy of selfless service. That is the original craving of the soul. But that craving is covered over by selfish cravings.
Clouded by
It's clouded. And that clouding is at different levels. He gives three examples here to indicate three levels of covering. As fire is covered by smoke is the first level. When fire is covered by smoke, you can still experience the heat of fire. The smoke is there. The smoke might obstruct the light, but the smoke doesn't obstruct the heat. The presence of the heat can still be felt. The next example that he gives is more gross covering. As a mirror is covered by dust. When a mirror is covered by dust, it ceases to exhibit any of its properties. The mirror. It can't reflect light, it can't reflect your face in it. It becomes dysfunctional, so to speak. The mirror becomes dysfunctional when it is covered by dust. And the third degree of covering of our consciousness Krishna gives is, or as the embryo is covered by the womb.
That's a very interesting and a very different
So
proposition.
when embryo is covered by the womb, you don't even understand the shape of the embryo, can you?
Hmm.
In the analogy of the mirror, at least the shape of the mirror can be seen, even if the mirror is dysfunctional. So these are different levels at which the karma can cover over our pure consciousness. Our pure consciousness, as I said, is a consciousness of service.
Selfless.
The joy of service. So, the Acharyas explain that the other examples, the embryo covered by the womb is like the tree life. In the tree life, the original consciousness of the tree is completely suppressed. The next example of mirror covered by dust alludes to animal life. So animals have a more developed level of consciousness. But fire covered by smoke indicates human consciousness. So in the human consciousness, very important, very interesting to understand also. So in the human form of life, if you think that I am going to simply fulfill karma, you will be a miserable wreck. Even if you have everything for your selfish pleasures, even if you have all the facilities, even at a level of ego, even people are saluting you, people are respecting your ego, you have got all the pleasures for your senses, still you will
Find something missing.
You will find something missing in your life. That's because you can still feel the heat of the fire. The consciousness is much more awakened in the human form of life. So you have that innate desire to do some service, go beyond yourself. So you might have observed, see, in the Western world where karma is free flow, and in the Western world, there is no hindrance to how many partners you can have. You can have partners all through your life also. But still, beyond a certain point, people look for long-term relationships.
Correct.
There's a need they feel for long-term relationships. Why? Because in the human form of life, long-term relationship means what? Something that goes beyond karma, goes towards prema. Karma means what I can get. Prema is what I can give.
What I can share.
What I can share. So people hanker for a relationship where they can give, which is a long-term relationship. So it's the need of the soul proper which you cannot wish away in the human form of life.
I see.
So Krishna is basically telling here, understand. See, my Guru Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he was overseeing the hospital, Bhaktivedanta Hospital, which is at Mira Road.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 300-bed hospital now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was started in 1998. And these doctors who were starting this hospital, they wanted to paint it in saffron color. Correct? And they had invited Maharaj just to see how the construction is going on. So Maharaj reached there and he called the doctor who was responsible for the construction. And he told him that saffron and pink, they look almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have got a keen eye, you can mistake one for the other.
I see.
Basically what he was trying to say is actually this is pink, not saffron. And then he made another statement. He said that saffron represents love and sacrifice. Pink represents lust.
I see.
And oftentimes in this world, people misunderstand the two. It's very easy to misunderstand karma for prema.
Yeah.
And prema for karma. Even though they are poles opposite. Karma is about what I can get. Prema is about what I can give. So, see, karma, that is why it's a very dangerous enemy. That's what Krishna is telling in the previous verse, right? Mahashano Mahapapma. It's the biggest enemy. The biggest enemy is not the enemy whom you know is the enemy. The biggest enemy is somebody who comes in the guise of a friend. So karma in this world has come in the guise of a friend. So people feel that if I satisfy my selfish desires, I'll become happy.
I'll be happy.
That's the enemy who is projecting things in that way.
It's a mirage.
It's a mirage. Yeah. True happiness comes from giving, not from taking.
Correct.
So so in this group of verses, Krishna is making Arjuna realize that it is karma which is the
problem.
biggest problem. This is very relevant in a discussion of karma yoga here. Because in karma yoga, you are dabbling with worldly things. Yes, karma means you are dealing with the with the world you are dealing.
Correct.
And when you are dealing with the world, you should be very clear about what is your friend and what is your enemy. And so this question is very pertinent, and the answer is also very pertinent for karma yogis. So then, thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by this eternal enemy in the form of lust. Kama is lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. And now, how to curb it? Krishna gives a plan of action to curb this kama. Two-pronged approach.
I see.
First, he gives the hierarchy of our internal world. The senses, the mind and the intelligence.
Intellect, yeah, that is.
Okay. And he says, the senses, the mind and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust.
Correct.
Kama has occupied these places. Your senses, your mind and your intelligence also. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. As I said, it bewilders you, making you feel that through experiencing selfish pleasures, you'll become happy. It is bewildering you by covering your intelligence. So what is the solution? Tasmatvam indriyanyadau niyamya bharatarshaba papmanam prajayi enam jnana vijnana nashana. So Krishna, initially he says, see, the senses are there. Senses are the thing that interact with the external world. And intelligence is like more deeper. So we have to deal with karma at both levels. So how do you deal with karma at the sensual level? Krishna is explaining. Therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses.
Right, attack it at the source itself.
See, the senses are in touch with the objects of the senses. So regulate your senses. By regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So regulations are very important for the senses. And then he gives the alternative approach. Okay, the next verse explains. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind.
Correct.
And the soul is even higher than the
Correct.
intellect. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence. O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. And thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy. So on the one hand, you regulate the senses. But on the other hand, see, the mind is still hankering. The senses might be regulating, but the mind is still focusing on the sense objects. The object may not be in front of the senses, but the mind is still
thinking about it.
Still thinking about it. So the mind has to be, one should study the mind by intelligence. Which intelligence? Spiritual intelligence. Through study of the scriptures. So when you study the scriptures, we understand karma is our enemy. We understand karma is our enemy through intellectual understanding. At the same time, we regulate the senses. When both of these things go hand in hand, we'll be able to successfully conquer karma. See, if you only focus on intellectual conviction, but you give free hand to the senses, that won't work. Because the senses are too weak. They are vulnerable. At the same time, you choke the senses without a proper understanding, it will be suffocating for you.
Because the mind will still keep thinking about it. In any case.
Yes, in any case. So it should be at both levels. This is warfare against karma that Krishna is explaining in the Bhagavad Gita. And this is how Krishna ends this particular chapter here.
Would Arjuna be a very confused guy at this stage? एक बार बोलता है भाई काम करो, पर काम has these issues. Yeah, these are the problems which you. So he is laying out, you must do. But when you're doing this, also worry about these things, really. You know.
See, it's very strategic.
And also what he's saying really is what you must do it of course selflessly. Yeah. And think you're doing it for me. And that is the way you will probably it'll be easier for you to do it selflessly.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes. See, to summarize, I would say, intellectually be convinced that selflessness is the way. You may or may not be at that level right now. In most of the cases, we are not at that level.
Correct.
So, we understand where our goal is, we acknowledge where we are, and we understand the process to bridge the gap. This is what Karma Yoga is all about.
Correct. Yeah. And try and control your senses to the extent you can, progressively.
Yes,
Practice it.
Practice it.
Chalo, thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. See you. Bye. In this episode 10, we understand Karma Yoga more deeply and the fact that calm or desires cloud our consciousness. We understand that for inner happiness, we need 3 key characteristics. We need to work without any selfish purpose, be free from our ego, and we need to work without lethargy. Normal human beings tend to get, and then selfishly forget. On the other hand, God keeps giving us, give, and still forgives our mistakes. We understand that calm or desires push us towards doing wrong activities even when we know fully well that they are inappropriate. And unfortunately, we cannot wish karma away easily, even though it tends to cloud our consciousness. We understand that calm is about what I want and what I can get, whereas prem is about what I can give, and people ultimately hanker for prem. We are told about 2 ways to curb calm. First, by regulating our senses, our mind, and intelligence. And secondly, we need to steady the mind through spiritual intelligence by studying the scriptures. Intellectually, we all understand that selflessness is the way, but we are not there. We need to understand that gap, and Karma Yoga helps us bridge that gap. With that, friends, we end chapter 3 and we will move on to chapter 4, where we talk of transcendental knowledge and parampara.